First off, I would like to apologize to Robert as we get started here. Most importantly, above
Yes.
all else, to let you know that we are sorry we are late. It's mainly my fault, we'll get moving here. We got a lot of draft coverage over the next 3 days, so 15 minutes, considering there's going to be hours and hours and hours of
Yes.
coverage, that's going to be good. So, Mike Kadlick covers the Patriots for CLNS Media. Of course, Taylor Kyles, Patriots Insider, CLNS Media, draft guru, wearing cool headphones, new-ish, I
They're my
think.
girlfriend's. Thank you.
I like them.
There you go.
And we are off and running with the beginning of our draft coverage, Patriots Draft Central coverage. We're going to talk about day one. Patriots have the 14th pick in the draft. We're going to talk about what we want to see there, some NFL news, some different goings-ons here, surrounding the team, a new report about Mac Jones and the direction the Patriots are going to go. We'll just kind of chop it up. We'll listen to what you guys say in the chat. Maybe respond to some of it, and we'll see. Both Taylor and Mike have done a zillion mock drafts, so we'll get a lot of their top candidates here. Before we get into what you want to see happen, what do you think in terms of vibes here? Do you have any, I woke up this morning with an epiphany and blank is going to happen?
I'm riding this A train hard, man. This
know.
feels like Christmas
Yeah.
when you're pretty sure you're gonna get what you want because every sign has pointed to it. Obviously it's draft season, people are gonna be throwing names around. I'm locked in, and it's gonna be good content because if they don't pick him, you're gonna see a very emotional reaction. So Zay all the way, baby.
We're going to have the live Taylor Kyles reaction from the Nose pick, and it's going to be electric. We're going to cut it up right away. It's going to be great.
I'm a former theater kid. I can't hold any of it back. You're gonna get everything.
I want to see if we can, if somebody, by the time we do. So here's what we're going to do, just so everybody knows. We're going to take you up until the draft. We're going to hang for a little bit because the first couple of picks I think are interesting. We'll take you through the first couple of picks just to see how things start to fall. Then we're gonna peace out for a little bit, and we're gonna jump back in a couple picks before the Patriots go on the clock, and then ride it all the way through 14. If there's a trade back, we'll either hang for a bit or we'll jump back in and around when we think the trade is. But we will be here in and around, whatever's going on with the Patriots, be able to talk to you about it and get your thoughts and get people's predictions and, kind of reassess and reshape things as names come off the board. So that's where we're at. 14, interesting spot for the Patriots to pick. It's the highest since 2010, 2008, whenever Gerard Mayo was picked 10. I forget when that was.
It was 08.
They don't jump up. They don't pick that high. It is interesting, though, a couple of reports out today just in terms of the way people are looking at the draft in general. And the kind of vibe here, guys, and tell me if you agree, is that I like 10 guys. Maybe I like 11. Maybe I like 12. I don't know what else I like beyond there. And there's a lot of teams in that 11 to 14 range who reportedly are looking to move out of that. So what are your thoughts there? Because I think that this is the type of thing that Bill Belichick would do. But I think if everybody else wants to do it too, it's much, much, much harder to do that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everyone, talks and complains about the Patriots always, they'll trade back, they're going to trade back, they're going to trade back. And, the vibe is, you're right, there's probably 10 blue chip, if you will, guys in this draft. If one of them falls, especially once the quarterbacks go, if someone takes Bijan Robinson top 10, I could see the Patriots going up and trying to nab one of the guys they want, whether it's one of those top two corners, Christian Gonzalez, Devin Witherspoon. Maybe Paris Johnson falls and the Patriots want to grab a left tackle of the future. But yeah, I mean, if they stick and pick at 14, there's plenty of other guys there too, I suppose. But no, it feels like after the report, like you just mentioned from Breer, it definitely feels like a position they could, trade up into.
Yeah, and again, I kind of got my Zay blinders on. I'm trying to think outside of that.
Yeah.
But realistically, I mean, there's not a lot of guys I'd really want them to trade up for personally. Like if they're in love with the Christian Gonzalez and they think they're, in that range, and maybe a Paris Johnson, if they pick someone outside of a Zay Flowers, I'm like, okay, this is someone they see as a cornerstone who really is going to lock down a premium position for a while. My thing is, and this is the same with receiver, very honestly, this is why if they, go outside of wide receiver, it's going to be disappointing because I've been hyping the guy up for so long. But at the same time, like at tackle, I think on day 2, you could get like a Tyler Steen, a Wanya Morris, corny. You got Corey Trice, Rajon Wright. There are some guys where the Patriots are so good developing offensive line, cornerback. Then you have a little bit more faith in, okay, maybe if they do decide, I want to get an impact player, someone who's going to be scoring points for us, someone who walks into the building and he's a professional, who's going to be a 3-level threat, just well-rounded candidate, then I have a lot of faith in them to be able to compensate in the later rounds. But, again, I have my bias, and I will not.
Well, I also
no.
I'm with you because I think that they can ultimately I think the Patriots believe that they're okay at offensive line.
Mm.
They have Trent Brown at left tackle. They brought in Riley Reif. They brought in Calvin Anderson. They feel like they want to play the depth game. Last year they lost Isaiah Wynn to injury. They brought Connor McDermott in off the practice squad and just kind of pieced it together. If they have the depth now, I think they're comfortable with it. So they might wait on tackle, and they should go get one of those playmakers on offense. So, and
you think about, like, even what Bill O'Brien wants to do. Like, I think a lot of this offense is going to be revolved around empty formations. Like, you saw a good amount of it with McDaniels, but everywhere Bill O'Brien goes, it's a staple of his offense. And those kinds of protections, that's more quarterback. Find, like, the best option to get the ball out of your hand quickly. Right. Because you have 5 guys in protection, you don't want the quarterback to be there, tapping the ball. You want to get it out quickly. So that's where I lean more, like, make Mac's life easier. Give him the guys where he can throw a check down like a Juju, maybe a Zay Flowers, maybe a dynamic running back to complement with Ramondre Stevenson, where, Mac doesn't have to be that gunslinger that everybody necessarily wants. He can play more of the Brady game where, okay, it's 3rd and 5. I'm going to hit James White out of the flat, and he's going to do the hard work versus me having to stand in and try to, bid it in where there's a hole defender and I'm trying to squeeze it into coverage. Just make your quarterback's life easier, makes the offensive line's job easier, and then you kind of work from there, especially with the way that they've talked about Riley Reif. Bill really spoke
and the
about
money
his versatility, the money. I don't think he's playing for the full season, but he's very, very good playing for the first half. You develop a guy, see where he's at. If not, Calvin Anderson maybe takes on.
Well, that's the thing is you can convince yourself that you're okay at tackle, right? But you could also convince yourself you're okay at corner if you wanted to. I mean, they did it last year and nobody would have thought so. Then you drafted a couple. Now you've re-signed Mills. You're moving him to safety. Obviously, you've lost McCourty. But you can convince yourself, hey, we survived with it last year. You can convince yourself you're okay at receiver. We got Juju. We've got some of the, I don't want to don't
That's
don't
the
start.
least compelling though.
Don't start. I don't want to start. Trust me. Again, if I'm going to tell you my philosophy is and has been for a decade, you draft multiple receivers early and often every year or every other year. You don't just leave it, address it every once in a while. Again, now the value has proven out over time. Obviously, that's where you go get receivers in the draft and early in the draft. That's where there's value. They're really friggin' expensive to sign later. They're hard to get as free agents. You're paying top dollar for middle class, and we don't want to see any more Nelson Aguilars here, okay? What you want to see is you want to see them hit once or twice here, but you got to take multiple swings. Look at a team like Kansas City. They're not necessarily hitting with their Robinsons and their Hardmans, but they're going to keep going back to it because they recognize this is where there's value. I'm going to get my backs. I'm going to get my receivers. I'm going to keep loading up. I'm going to keep rotating them in and out and take a lot of cracks at it. Patriots have not. They're not doing it. Before we get into the receiver thing, because again, I honestly believe the majority of people out there want one thing to happen and one thing only, and that's to draft a receiver at 14. The problem is it's not a super deep class. Now, what I fear happens here is this is my nightmare scenario. A trade down, which is possible, and it's well within kind of the norm for what Bill does, into a spot where they hope that they're going to get the player that they wanted to get or something close. But the receiver run happens, they miss out on it, and they're stuck with a guy they don't love necessarily at 25, 26, 27, or wherever they trade to. And then they do the same dance they always do, which is they use the assets they used to move down in the first to move up in the second. But that hasn't really worked out either if you want to go through some of the names where they've done that. So do you guys just want to see them stand packed, take the best player available, and just friggin' go?
Well, I think with the receiver, I think we can argue how they've spent their capital for sure. But if you look at where they're going with their first and second round picks, I think they agree. They have been investing in a receiver. Like, yes, it hasn't worked out. Obviously, you end up trading a second for Sanu out of complete desperation. N'Keal Harry didn't work out. Tyquan Thornton, his book's still being written. But usually in the first 2 rounds, offensively, they go wide receiver or tackle. And that's been very consistent over the past 5 years. But the thing is, and Mike, we were talking about this before the show, the receivers they tend to bring in the building are more guys where there's like a concession. Where N'Keal Harry, it's okay, he's, maybe he's a good yak guy and he catches balls downfield, but he doesn't separate. Tyquan Thornton is really quick and he can separate and he's fast, but you worry about his ability to get off sticky coverage because he's undersized, even though he's quick. So there's always a guy that they pick who has a caveat that's significant. Zay Flowers, yes, he's undersized, but we've seen guys with his ability to play through contact and play bigger than his size, which I feel like there's a lot of guys in this class like that. The undersized Z, maybe more of a slot, but they make big boy plays. I just think he's the guy who compensates the most for what he may lack and could come in and, that's someone that you really funnel the offense through and work around. I think there's a lot of great complementary players like Tank Dell, Josh Downs. I just don't know if they could have maybe the impact and the consistent, down-to-down threat that you get from a Flower. So, yeah, I hope they stay pat, and I think you could argue he may not be the best guy if they were to pick him at 14, but I think it's a sign that they want to commit and say, we've done the work, we love this guy. Obviously, it's not worked out recently. I don't want to overshadow that, but I think history's shown they're willing to invest in a receiver, and with all the work they've done, how glowing the reviews are for Zay Flowers, especially for professional players.
The consensus feels like it would be a reach at 14 with what you were about to say. If they stick and pick Zay at 14 and it doesn't work out, everyone's going to talk about their.
But here's the thing: here's why I don't buy it. Right? Here's why I don't buy the reach, because at this point, depending on where you go and depending on who you talk to, there's a feeling that you're seeing. The tight ends going 12-13 or 28-29.
Yeah.
You're seeing JSN clearly number one receiver, or you're seeing maybe Addison. Actually, what about Quentin? And Zay sticks in somewhere. The one thing I'll say about Zay, if this was ranked choice voting, Zay Flowers would be president, because he's consistently like the 2 on almost everybody's board.
And Taylor would be vice president.
But
I humbly accept.
He's consistently like the 2. I think on a lot of people, I like this guy better, but then there's Zay. He's just not everybody's top, and that's because of the prototype and the body and this and that. But I don't believe it. I believe wherever he goes is where he would have gone and where other people would have probably taken him to. I don't believe it's a reach at 14. I think if the Patriots don't take him at 14, he's going at 15, 16, or 17. So I think it's in that range. Also, number 2 is I don't believe in value because if a guy's great at 14, do you care you drafted him at 14 versus 25?
That's my thing.
It makes no difference. If you like him, you get him. When you're talking about Cole Strange, for example, and again, the book's not written on him either, that's a different story, because are you telling me you couldn't have found a Cole Strange equivalent a couple rounds later, 2-3 rounds later, and done something different with this pick from a value proposition? Yeah, you could have, but you're not finding Zay Flowers in the 3rd and the 4th round. So if you like him or another receiver and you're sold out, go get him.
Strange was much more of a reach than Zay would be at 14 too.
Right.
He was a projected day 3 guy in some places. So that was just.
I think that was more of a case where it's like board to board. Like even McVay was saying they didn't study him because they didn't think they had the capital to get him.
Yeah,
there were 3 boards. There were 3 guards that went off the board that day. I think were 2 or 3, and they were all like
Zion
the top
Johnson
guys.
Went, and then
and Cole Strange literally tested as one of the most athletic offensive linemen in
history.
Drunk
Sean McVay kind of threw it for all of us, because it got everybody like they're laughing at us, and like
And that's the point too. If you like a guy and you can't trade out, I'm sorry, Mike. But if you like a guy and you can't trade out, and your board says there's 2 guys, but where we're at, I can't get out of the pick, so I got to choose him. There's so many other things that go into it to just say, oh, they got bad value. You have no idea what they thought about that player, or what they didn't like about someone else. It's speculation. And
that's
3 or 4 years down the road.
The 2 draft philosophies that everyone talks about: drafting for need versus drafting the best player available. Cole Strange was so clearly last year drafting for need. Yeah. He was nowhere close to the best player available at 29, but they needed a guard because they traded Shaq Mason.
It's so this weird year, too.
Even he was up and down. And down last year.
And so if that's how they play, it's draft for need, then it's going to be a corner, wide receiver, or tackle. If it's best player available, then Tyree Wilson slides, they go get him. If it's Bijan Robinson, maybe they take Bijan at 14.
But the value matters, not just the value that matters in drafts is not the player and whether you could have gotten him later. The value matters is this part of the draft the place where you can get these type of guys and nowhere else. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like it's been proven when you mention Shaq Mason and Joe Tooney and these guys, it's been proven you're finding guards late in the round. That's the bigger problem with the Cole Strange, not whether or not he was a first round graded guard. It's just go get a guard later, man. You got to get tackles, DBs, edge guys,
Right.
linebackers, playmakers, receivers in those first rounds. Got playmakers. You get your playmakers in your first round. A franchise tackle, and you fill the gap other places. You can play the depth game more so with interior linemen than you can with receivers, So that's what's
Yeah.
insane to me, right?
And I think you also have to think about like, okay, what is the grade? Like, what are you expecting from this guy? Like, I think the beginning and then towards the end of the first round, they're not the same thing. Like the Patriots getting tackles with short arms. It's like, yeah, you're not gonna get a prototypical tackle at pick 20 or later than that. He's gonna come with a caveat. So, it's maybe he's a day one starter, but he may need a year before he's a plus guy.
Yeah.
Whereas like a Cole Strange, you think of him as a plus starter because when Cole Strange is in year 3, you expect him to be a guy that if you need to put protection away from him, he's good on an island, like what Mike Onwenu was last year. Like that made Strange's life easier because Andrews could consistently give the rookie help because Onwenu's a brick wall and he's not going to lose to anybody. And he also gives you flexibility because with his athleticism, completely opens up what you're allowed to do, and with his toughness, his effort, and he's got good hands in the run game, he can execute any scheme. So you're saying, okay, if I draft this guy in the first round, he is changing the complexion of my offense and making me significantly better. Cole Strange wasn't that last year. Year 3, there's a very good chance we're talking about him as one of the best guards in football if he lives up to his intelligence and his athleticism.
And I still
But was it worth it at 29?
And I still think it's a bad pick. That's the
Yeah.
point. Is even if he turns into a very good starting guard, I still think it wasn't the right pick at that point in the draft, especially considering you traded down from 21 also. So you went 21 to 29 and took a guy that you probably could have gotten the equivalent of presumably somewhere later in the draft at a position that's easier to fill and easier to find value both in free agency and in other parts of the draft where you're not using a lot of capital. Let's get into some of this stuff. As we're talking deals, let's get into it because this is kind of Bill's game, right? He loves to do the trades, and here's the draft. Here's the tracker, rather. First round trade history, Bill Belichick. Traded up 17 times, traded back 31 times, traded for a player 3 times. He's traded up 12 times in the past 6 years, but none have come in the first round. There are a couple times he has traded up in the first round. That was to get Gerard Mayo at 10, to get Ty Warren at 13, to get Daniel Graham. I can't remember exactly that, but he traded up to get Graham, which was pick 21. So he has done it before. There was a trade also, I believe, with in the Win Mitchell year, but he's not trading. The vibe lately has been trade down in 1, trade up in 2. That doesn't always work for the Patriots. It has not worked. And I think what they view is you have that cutoff, right? You've got your 10, 12, 15, whatever guys, and that's usually the nut, right, of the draft. These guys are the first round grades. Then they have a lower grade on oftentimes players 15 to 45. So it doesn't make any difference wherever your cutoff line is. If you fall in below that, you feel you're getting roughly the same value later. So why not stockpile? It makes sense if you're hitting on a lot of those picks. But we've seen them, especially in the second round, really struggle with those guys, and also identifying some of those players that they wanted to get in the second round and going to get them. And again, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but players that they've traded up for in the last 5 years, Barmore looks to be pretty good.
That's a good
Uche
one.
starting to look good. Asiasi, Keene, Onwenu was good. Joanne Williams, Byron Coward, Jake Bailey, Duke Dawson, Antonio Garcia. It's not always, and again, there's going to be misses in drafts. It is what it is, but there is something to be said for getting the blue chipper.
So there's sort of a changing of the guards in the the de facto GM role here with Casario to Matt Groh and sort of how they've headed up their draft their draft operation. The last couple with Barmore and Thornton, and I believe Uche as well was under Groh. Those are 3 solid trade up options. So look, I know that the jury's still out on Thornton, and it's gonna depend on who else they bring in this year, right? But I mean, if you go up and trade for Christian Barmore, who was supposed to be a first round pick and then fell into the second round, that was a solid one. Thornton, same thing. If guys start to fall, whether it be a Darnell Washington, who I think is one of the best offensive fits for the Patriots at tight end, given that they have two pass catchers, they still need a blocker. And then maybe, I don't know, Jahmyr Gibbs is the other one that I always think of because, look, I don't want to spend a first-round pick on a running back. I don't want to ever give a running back a second contract. But if you compare Gibbs with Stevenson, Gibbs just worked with O'Brien at Alabama. That feels like another one where I don't think he's going to fall to the first round, but if he does, those are two guys I wouldn't mind them trading up for.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Maybe I'll just make the argument for trading down because I think if you are going to move back in the second round, there's so many players that are still going to be available who are going to be not just great values, but guys who could probably make an impact for you sooner than later and take on a significant role. My thing is I really want them to maybe get another third rounder because I think that third to fourth round, it's their sweet spot. Like I feel like that is where they really
it's their sweet spot and it's empty right now. Like they don't have a lot. They don't have the picks there, right?
Exactly. And maybe 3 fourth rounders. Like that's honestly the part of the draft, obviously the first round pick, but that's where I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do because that's where, okay, you get your premium guys where you expect them to come in, make an immediate impact. But that's where they get to the point where it's okay, maybe this is a guy that we expect to be a role player, but because they're so good at finding value there, they usually contribute sooner than later. Or like we saw last year with the corners, you have a rash injuries and guys go down and you don't expect Jack and Marcus Jones to be starting games for you and playing all these snaps, but that's exactly what happens. And they have pretty good seasons.
If they don't go corner in the first round, there's going to be a ton of guys who fall into this, or not a ton, but there's going to be enough guys that fall early second round that they should trade up from 46 to get, whether it's Brent, whether it's Cam Smith, whether it's Forbes probably is going to go first round. But,
so what's your sweet spot? Where's the best cluster of players? Where's the best value? Like if you were to try to acquire as many picks in a certain range, what would that be?
In all my mocks, it's the third. It's like I always regret not having an extra third round pick. I think the fourth is
because you see a bunch of guys and you get FOMO. Like I want that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy.
Yeah. It's just like I think that's where a lot of the meat is in this draft. It's
guys it's also where the
develop. Oh, sorry, go on.
It's also where the drop off begins because the next one round later, there's a teardrop and you're like, I don't like any of these guys anymore.
But it's also because those are the rounds where coaching matters so much because that's when you're like, okay, this guy is a second, like end of the first round talent, but maybe he hasn't, enough experience or da-da-da-da-da. He's a tweener type. He's older, whatever reasons guys drop. That's where the Patriots are like, oh, fine. Like we have the coaching staff to bring the best out of this guy. And that's when you get the third round picks that become household names because the Patriots actually were able to develop them and get the most out of them. I think there's a lot of those guys.
It's going to depend. And again, that's why, you got to take all these mock drafts with a grain of salt. As fun as they are, as good as it looks, as far as this guy could be available here. If there is a crazy run on wide receivers, then the value automatically shoots up, and then they're going to go early. Same with corners, any position really, right?
Like as soon as JSN goes off the board, it's like, all right, now we got to be serious.
It's going to be trade up. Everyone's going to go get their guy because oh crap, he went too early. Now I need to go get my guy so I don't miss out on it.
Exactly. And I feel like tackle is I feel like when you talk about those positions, like receiver's the first where you're going to see like a lot of movement. Tackle's under there. Corner, I feel like teams maybe, unless it's really at the top, like top 10, I think that's one where you can kind of see how the board plays out unless you fall in love with a guy because there's like 5 or 6 cornerbacks who are like long, athletic, don't have a lot of things you worry about that could easily go in the first round.
I don't know how much, and this is not Patriots talk, it's more a general top of the draft stock, or top of the draft talk. I don't know how much stock you want to put into the betting odds, but CJ Stroud has shot up to the heavy favorite to be the second pick in the draft.
And the feeling behind that is
Casario's going to go, and they kept that under lock and key the whole time, but Casario, D'Amico Ryans, that's the coach. Texans are going to go with Stroud. That's what it's looking like.
And the feeling behind that was they were going to go D-end. And hope that the QB was there coming back around, and their intel is telling him it's not going to happen. So if they want a quarterback, they got to take him at 2. And honestly, I mean,
the second Bryce Young was announced to the Panthers like 3 weeks ago, I bet Stroud to go number 2 before the odds changed. And I was like, let's go. I got good value. And then it all changed, and I'm sitting there every day like, they better take him. They better take him. And finally, here it is. Yeah. So
good a time as any to tell you goofballs out there.
Yes.
about our situation here, and that of course is FanDuel.
Yeah.
If you got time here, there's intel. Okay, you got a few more minutes to sneak something in. It is
Yes.
looking likely that Stroud is the number 2 pick. I wanted to throw down. I had this. I still believed it up until a day or so ago that Richardson was going to go 1. It was
Interesting.
going to be like a shock the world scenario, and really good odds on that a while back. So, but you still want to get in there, and look at some of the things that you could potentially bet on. This is a good opportunity. It has all of the draft props right now, who the Patriots might take, what position they're most likely to take, draft order, who's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all still in play. You want to go check it out. You want to mess around. Sign up if you haven't already. FanDuel.com/Boston. This deal is running out. I kid you not. You really are running out of time here. 200 in bonus bets when you deposit 10, bet 5, real money wager. Again, between the draft, between NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, which we all know, and FanDuel is, of course, the official partner of Major League Baseball and the official wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Go to fanduel.com/Boston. 200 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. Go get some. And again, 15 or so minutes, and you can probably still fire off some bets here. Let's get into some news-ish stuff before we get into more draft preview. And again, just to let you know, we are going to hang out a little bit during the beginning of the draft, and we'll talk you through some of the picks. Let's talk about some stuff going on in and around. Taylor, what do you find so funny?
I just saw a video of Sean Payton on Twitter. I was just about to send it to Mike. It's I'm not going to say what it is. Just if you want to laugh, look up Sean Payton. You'll find it.
I like laughing too.
I'll send it to you too.
I see it. That's awesome. Let's go.
It's he's adjusting well to Denver.
Yes.
This from Tom Curran, NBC Sports Boston. Patriots not interested in trading Mac Jones in the first round. They will not draft a quarterback until earliest 3rd round. So they might be looking for quarterback. They're not looking early. Okay. I think that this is a fair and safe report. I think I don't think this means that they weren't considering trading Mac.
John hates Mac.
Me and Taylor are Team Mac, and John is like, I need Will Levis in my life so bad.
I literally he'll text me and be like, "Hey, you see this Mac news?" And I'm like, "Please don't. I don't want to. Don't make me talk about this."
He's so jacked though. Will Levis, he's so jacked.
Yeah, right.
That's a bad thing though. It ruined Brady Quinn's career.
You don't like jacked quarterbacks.
Jacked.
We know. He's too jacked for his own good. He's too sexy for his own good. Listen, I'm not saying that. It has nothing to do with what I want. It's what the Patriots want and whether or not we believe that they want Mac. And I still don't believe it. I'm sorry. I don't care. I don't believe that they're in love. I believe that it's good enough. I'll do it. Because why? Because you did spend a number 15 pick on him 2 years ago, because it's starting all over, because if you draft somebody else, it's going to be a project and you got to wait on them another year or two, because what are you going to do with Mac now? Because you've run out of leverage. If you were going to draft a quarterback, you would have had to have traded him already, because now at this point, it's going to be impossible to get any value on your return. So there's a million reasons why it makes more sense to stick with Mac. Also, I think they think if Mac sucks, big deal. They'll throw in Zappy and they'll just live with this year, and that will be that. But I do not believe they fully believe it. I do not believe they fully believe Mac is the guy. Absolutely. No, I don't. I'm sorry, Taylor. I don't, and I won't. But I'll ask you guys.
They definitely kick the tires. They definitely kick the tires.
I don't think they're being naive.
They kicked every tire.
I don't think they're being naive about it, but I also don't think they're necessarily going to say, look at how bad he was in one of the worst conditions we could have possibly put in. Like,
he deserves another chance. He deserves another chance.
That's my thing.
No one
Give
deserves
him a season.
anything.
If he's not good after this season, like when they draft Flowers, if he isn't good, then
I will
be as cynical as you want me to be. But I'm giving the guy a chance. Like, he had a good rookie season. He, obviously struggled last year, but that was just such a train wreck, man. And Kraft said it himself. I think it makes a lot of sense. Give the guy any amount of stability. Jonathan Jones said it, Mike. You had the great tweet from the Jonathan Jones interview. Like, give him some consistency and see what he can do. He was one of the best quarterbacks in college football history. Like, I'm not saying it always translates, obviously, but people act
so
like
was Tim
he's some
Tebow,
jack.
but
Oh, God, we're not doing that. We're not doing that, please.
Hey, he
You
was
didn't
one of
hear
the
that.
best quarterbacks in college football history.
He was
But
one of
no,
the
I'm
best
with you.
winners in college football history. I think that's more fair.
You got to win. The
Okay.
dubs are what matter. But no,
Okay.
go.
No, it's fine. You go. You do your thing.
No, just that again.
Let's hear from all of Team Mac.
Yeah, no, he does. When you say nobody deserves a second chance, I know you're only you're messing around, but he doesn't.
It's one of my favorite movies, Unforgiven. Deserve's got nothing to do with it. I don't believe deserve is a reason you give anybody an opportunity. If you think they're bad or you think you can do better, it's a cruel world.
Right.
But they don't owe Mac anything. That's more what I meant.
Yeah, they don't owe him anything.
Position.
That's fair.
Right.
They put him in a bad position, and you.
But it sounds like they want him to earn. Like, it doesn't sound like they're handing him anything. It just sounds like they're saying, "Hey, compete," and we're not going to actively work against you like they did last year. That's like I really think it's as simple as that.
Mike, do you have anything?
Eagles and Cardinals are settling a tampering investigation today involving the hiring of Jonathan Gannon. Eagles traded pick number 9. There's a trade that Eagles and Cardinals settled a tampering investigation today involving the hiring of defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon. The Eagles traded pick number 94 in the draft and a 5th rounder to the Cardinals for the number 66 pick.
That's the settlement?
That's the settlement.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. That's not great.
I saw Cardinals, and I thought it was going to be the number.
You thought they traded out the 3rd?
Yeah. But no, as far as we'll go back to Mac, just because that's what we do.
No, but I'm saying let's say this: do you think either of these two would be tantalizing enough and worth it to? Let's say again,
Richardson, yes.
Richardson, yes.
Richardson, yeah.
Richardson, yeah.
What happens if he's there and you're like, wait a second? What happens if you've decided you want to keep Mac, but something happens and it falls in your lap? Obviously, a easy thing to do here in this scenario would be trade. Oh, someone's got to want one of these guys, and maybe I can get a good haul here. I didn't expect it because now I was going to talk about it. Green Bay jumping ahead of the Pats was probably to scoop them on a receiver, presumably, and a lot of people think they went in there to get JSN, and if that's the case, so be it. But that also creates a situation is if one of these quarterbacks gets through to 13, he's going to be there at 14, which means you might have an interesting opportunity to either roll the dice on somebody who you might have thought never would I get at this position, or make a big trade or something like that. But what do you do if one of them is there at 14?
Well, there's absolutely, first of all, they'll fall into their lap, but there's no way there's not like a contingency plan in place if it were to happen. So they're not going to sit there and be like, oh my God, what do we do? Like, they know what their decision will be if Richardson.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. They can't be like, crap. Well, yeah, right.
It's like the scene in The Office during the fire drill,
Yeah,
it's just like
that's what it feels like from the outside. It's like, oh my God, Richardson's actually there. But that's not what it's going to be like in the room. They know that.
It's like, okay, this contingency.
Yeah, if like they've talked about this before. If Anthony Richardson is there, what do we do? If Will Levis is there, what do we do? Clearly, they've done their homework on that. Yeah. Like, in my opinion, I think Richardson, that's a different story than Levis. I would trade out for Levis. If Richardson is there, like you said, he's a freak. Like, one of the best combines we've ever seen from a quarterback. And, take with
a human
with what you get.
And I think,
yeah, right.
That's the craziest thing since Broderick Bunkley broke the bod pod. It's
right. And so you maybe take your shot on Richardson, and if he's there, you draft him, and then you figure out what you want to do with Mac later. Levis, I don't see it. I just don't see it.
And didn't Levis's visit reportedly, like, it went well, but it didn't go great? Like, you're not going to draft a guy at 14 because, he might be good and he had a good interview. Like, I don't, like, obviously he looks great, like, in shorts and a t-shirt and whatever, but, like, if you're talking about on the field, like, Levis just doesn't do it for me. I don't think he's a first-round quarterback, me personally. I think that's really a reach, and we're going to be saying in 3 years, like, he probably should have been more of a second or third-round guy. I think it's a huge stretch. Richardson, I also think is being boosted up because I think if there were more pro-ready guys, like in Mac's class, I think he's probably, like, the 4th or, like, 5th, and you're talking about more like a second-round guy. But he has enough actual, like, natural passing instincts where, like, you see him, like, throwing the right kind of passes, like velocity, where they need to put it on a rope, processing, like, full field reads. Like, mentally, there's enough where you're saying, I've seen him do it. Now I need to turn it from like, doing it once in a while with some bad mistakes to, okay, get the mistakes out of here. Let's turn the good stuff and make that what happens on a down to down basis, where that's where Richardson for me is, on top of being a crazy athlete. It's, yeah, okay. At 14, at the situation they're at, it wouldn't be, I'd be pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, but what's interesting, I don't know whether you guys put stock on this or not. And you had that CJ Stroud hit job with the S2 cognition test, which has been one of the most divisive things that's been out there right now.
Yeah.
Will Levis, for what it's worth, 93% in that thing. And this is a guy who's been tabbed as a slow processor and a guy who can't get through his reads and is a little bit lazy in his progressions. I'm not putting any stock behind anything that's this new that you don't know anything about it. But it is interesting that people are paying as much attention to this. And Levis scored really well on a test that was actually supposed to show some of his traits, which would have led you to believe he'd be horrible at this sort of thing. Processing recognition,
I have a hard time thinking the former Wonderlic, now the S2, is going to tell you truly how well somebody processes, how teams like swap their coverage in the middle of a play or like things like that. Like, I just don't see that translate into processing speed on the field.
Because it's much different when you're like hitting a screen versus like, I punted in high school. This is like my one thing where I like really understood how quarterbacks feel. Man, in practice, I could hit like 50, 60, no problem. I'm telling you, when I would go up against like backups and feel that rush, it's a completely different thing. Like the pressure of feeling people come at you, I can't imagine as a quarterback.
Oh,
like,
trust me.
It's not the same thing. It is way different.
I tried playing quarterback for 10 seconds in high school. I could throw the ball from my knees 50 yards, and I couldn't friggin' I was, oh my God, like what is everybody doing?
For those of you who don't know, I played quarterback in college. I played D3 football at Worcester State, and that in high school and college, just about every single time I got thrown into the game for the first time in a season, I would throw an interception on the first drive, strictly out of the yips. It was like, all right, I got that one out of my system. Now we're ready to roll. But yeah, man, no, it's different.
I once hit one of those punts where it goes straight up, and you're just looking like, oh my God, please, like some gust of wind, like save me. And it hits somebody on the other team, and it's just like, oh no, I'm sorry, get me off the field.
I always talk about it, and I always say like the analogy I use for quarterback is like Neo in the Matrix. Like the ones who are good at it is when Neo finally figured out that he's the one, and everything starts moving slowly, and they see that, and then that, and then that, and that's how it is in their brain, and everybody else it's. Brrr. So again, you can, you never know what you're going to get with the quarterbacks here. It is interesting. The test has gotten this much pub and that Levis scored well on it. But again, we don't know whether or not it matters. Let's look at the entire Patriots board here. Okay. In terms of what they have going on, because you're talking about movement and where do you have it? You've got a few fourths. Where can you create value here? Trading down from one and trading fours into up into to get more thirds or something like that. You can roll up some picks there if that's what you want to do. If you want to load up on third rounders or second and third rounders, I think you can by either trading down the first or trading some, and then whatever you get there and packaging that and moving around, you could end up with one of those picks. And the Patriots have in the past had drafts where they've had 2, 3, one time 4 second round picks. That could be your draft if that's what Belichick wants it to be.
They're going to find a way to, and I know Taylor, and on our show on Patriots Beat, Alex is much more well-versed as far as like trade value charts and this kind of stuff. They're going to find a way to pick between 76 and 107. Whether that be, they're not going to wait that long. There's just, like Taylor said earlier, there's too much meat in that, part of the draft. They're going to trade back or trade up somehow to get in between 76 and 107. How they do it, we'll kind of just have to wait and find out, but they're not going to wait that long.
Yeah.
It's that second rounder, man. I'm just looking at it like you can go. I don't need you that bad.
You think so?
or
46,
what I would love, and I was saying this a couple of weeks ago, like if they could pull off a trade with the Commanders, just get a little extra value, maybe move back for. I don't think they're going to get like a fourth rounder or anything, but I would like to see them get a fifth for sure because they need a kicker or a punter. So that's one I would look out for. I think that's where you kind of fill out later, but I think that 2 is where you can get some better value in the middle of the draft.
So you'd take 46 and trade it back instead of trading up, like I had said earlier.
Yeah, that's just, but again, that's like with all the mocks I've done. Every time I trade back, I still end up with like Tank Dell or Josh Downs or Sam Laporta. Like, there's enough guys there where I'm okay with letting the board kind of fall as it is, and you just find the best value there because it's going to be there at a premium position.
Yeah, so we'll see. Trades are always on the board. We don't know exactly what's going to happen at 14, but let's just assume that they take it, okay, and that they take that pick, and the boards break much, like many people are assuming, and that would be, 3 and or 4 quarterbacks. You're looking at, you're looking at for sure Will Anderson, Jalen Carter. You're assuming you don't know in terms of how.
Too.
Yeah, a tackle or two, up to 3 tackles. Paris Johnson most likely. I mean, depending on where you like them, Broderick Jones, Skronsky. I think that's where it's going to get interesting, whether those tackles go before the Patriots or one of them still available, and then you're going to have a conversation. I think all four quarterbacks are gone before then, so you're kind of in this zone right now. So we're going to start with Taylor's top 5, and Taylor's going to tell us his top 5 at 14 here as we break down this board here. And oh my God, Zay Flowers.
Are you shocked?
What do you know?
I know everybody's super surprised by that one. Honestly, every time I talk about him, I feel like I'm just like, a broken record, but 3-level threat, that alpha mentality that you really want in your top receiver, that guy like Edelman, he's small, but he's one of the toughest guys on the field who makes you better in practice. One of the things that really sold me on Flowers was, obviously a smaller guy, you're going to have concerns of him blocking. He blocks like he's trying to get in guys' heads. Like he's taking guys to the ground, like blocking on the backside where the camera will pan off of him, and he's still engaged in trying to move people. Character, the Patriots saw him at the Senior Bowl. They had him for a top 30 visit, obviously local guy. They've shown about as much interest in the guy as they possibly can, on top of him being, in my opinion, both the best deep threat and the most yak receiver in this class. I really just think if he's there at 14, I don't think you got to overthink it. He is a dynamic player who changes the way teams are going to plan for your offense. So he's an easy top pick for me. I can keep going.
Oh, I was going to say you can talk. Let's just go through the list here. We know Flowers.
He gave 5 names, but he only really wants.
Yeah, I mean, what are we doing?
The rest are a smoke screen. You made me.
Yeah.
What's the point of this? Nolan Smith, O tackle, Darnell Wright. You're assuming the others are off the board, or you like him better than the others?
No, in all seriousness, I think Nolan Smith is a guy who might not be available. But I mean, honestly, in terms of character, like the things I say about Zay Flowers, I feel the same way about Nolan Smith, where if they take him, I'm still really excited. He's, again, also like Zay Flowers. He's undersized, but he's a really powerful dude. He played in the SEC, and he was one of the best run defenders in that division. So right. I think a lot of the concerns you would initially have if you look at his size profile aren't there. And he's also an electric athlete, a team leader, just awesome character guy. So Nolan Smith is a guy I'd also be really hyped about. Yeah. Darno, right, I've talked about. Also, probably the second most right behind Zay Flowers. He's my favorite offensive lineman in this entire class. He's got positional versatility. He's had experience at left tackle. Still probably better on the right, but I think if you talk about technique, he's the cleanest guy in this draft. He's got some leverage issues because he's a bigger guy. I think he could shed a bit of weight so he has more quickness in his feet. But he's one of the most pro-ready guys, and not just a guy where, like a Skronsky, where I think he's a guard, but if you were to pick him at 14, he's going to be a good starter, but maybe he has some deficiencies. Darnell Wright's a guy who I think comes in and really cleans up a lot of things you worry about quickly. Can I keep going, or are we trying to move?
Well, let's jump ahead. Banks, cornerback. Okay. You're assuming that's Porter.
Let me get some love to Deontay Banks real quick, though, because he's one of the most physical press corners in this class.
You're assuming Gonzalez and Porter are gone to take Banks, right?
I think Gonzalez is gone. Porter, I don't know. He's too one-dimensional for me at 14.
So you have him ahead of Porter.
Yeah, for me, Deontay Banks, he's ahead of Porter.
So you would have him as the number 2 cornerback after Christian Gonzalez in your mind?
Yeah, and then after that, I would say Devin Witherspoon.
Okay, and then
Banks ahead of Witherspoon.
I want to,
because for the Patriots, it's that physical corner, that press guy who also has versatility. He's a perfect fit.
Well, let me ask you this, and then you see the last name there, Bijan Robinson. I mean, again, one of the most polarizing players in the entire draft, simply not because of any questions over his talent, but whether or not anyone should ever draft a running back in the first round, especially one, high in the top 10 or top 15 picks ever again. So let's ask you this hypothetical. Everybody thinks he's good. It's almost like the same conversation we had about Cole Strange being a Pro Bowl level guard at 29. Like, I still think I still don't know it's a great pick. If you're getting Christian McCaffrey light here at 14, is this a slam dunk pick?
I don't call him Christian McCaffrey light. I say closer to Saquon Barkley light. Like,
okay,
I like
but
Christian
I'm just
McCaffrey.
saying,
I
I'm
feel like
saying
his value is a little.
I'm saying a dual threat
like a Saquon Barkley.
of a person who can catch 70, 80, 90 balls out of the backfield. You might be able to line up in the slot and as your lead back.
But that's why I compare him more to like a Saquon Barkley, because like Saquon Barkley was legitimately that Giants offense. Like, you know, McCaffrey's fantastic, but you got Kittle, you got Debo. Like, there's a lot of talent, and he complemented. I
feel like he did well outside of San Fran too. I could be wrong.
No, he did. But I'm saying, like, Saquon, like, I don't think you watch what he did and what Christian McCaffrey did, and you say they're the same. Like, Barkley was a great receiver, great runner. I think that's more the kind of value you get with Bijan Robinson, where he's just a fantastic player in space. People bounce off him. He can also make you miss. He's got home run ability. Like, you know, I don't think McCaffrey is quite as elusive or as like powerful, which is why I think there's a difference in play style there, where Bijan gives you just a very well-rounded player who, if you can get him opportunities, I think he's going to produce no matter where you put him.
Okay. Mike, would you take that swing if he's sitting there? All of your sexy impact players are gone.
I would pick up the phone.
Or would you rather take any receiver?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
I would pick up the phone and try and trade back.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I'm not gonna put it past them to take the swing. I think that although it feels like a luxury pick,
feels
I
like
don't think
smoke
they have
too.
the luxury to take. Yeah, probably a little.
We've heard a ton of Patriots might be interested in a running. I don't buy that at all.
And think about even Sony Michel. Sony Michel was in that same mold where obviously he was injured, which hurt his stock.
He was supposed to be able to do it all.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that was the same mold where you're like, you put him anywhere and he's going to succeed. And he
blocking, pass catching, he couldn't do any of it. I couldn't believe it.
I think that injury just took so much out of him, because it's not like he just fall off a cliff. Like, he was great at Georgia, then had a significant injury and wasn't even like you started to see little like bursts of it, but obviously it was too much where he couldn't do it consistently. But again, he was at the end of the first round, so Bijan at 14, I think that's ridiculous.
All right, Mike's top 5 at 5. Rip through it.
Yeah, rapid fire. 3 positions of need, 5 guys there, 2 corners, 2 wide receivers, and the tackle. Gonzalez and Porter. I think Gonzalez probably not going to be there, but if he falls, I think it's a slam dunk at 14 for the Patriots. Long boundary corner, something they need. Yeah, they have the amoeba guys there with, Mills and Jones and Marcus Jones and guys who can play both. But if you can lock up cornerback 1, Christian Gonzalez, do it. Same thing with Joey Porter Jr. Sort of one-dimensional, like you said, Taylor. But at the end of the day, I think he's another lockdown guy. He's 6'2", I believe. So the tallest corner they have on the roster right now is Jalen Mills at 6 foot. Aside from Sean Wade, who we're not going to call him one of their corners. So they need length at the position. I think Gonzalez and Porter bring that, 2 guys that could potentially be there. Obviously, Zay and JSN. I think Zay is a better fit. Go ahead. Were you going to go on corners? Or?
No. I want to follow on what you're saying and ask you something else, but keep going.
So as far as wide receivers go, I put Zay over JSN just as far as a Patriots fit. I feel like he can play inside and outside, where JSN is more of your prototypical slot. So I put Flowers over JSN, but if they take JSN, I'm not going to not be happy. I feel like they need weapons.
Yeah.
And then Broderick Jones is there just as the tackle that realistically could be there at 14. I feel like Paris Johnson, maybe Skoronski, but Broderick Jones would be the one that will be there at 14. I think that would be a slam dunk.
So and Mike, real quick on your receiver point, like real quick with the JSN thing, and I've been thinking about this too. He is such a perfect fit. I almost think that's a bad thing. Like I think he's very much in the old mold of like, I don't want to knock the guy because he's so quarterback friendly. Like, you know exactly what you're getting. But I feel like, okay, that's what the Patriots were when they had all these weapons where you could control the middle with like 3 or 4 different people. Whereas Zay is, I think, like what they could be, where they want to be that downfield explosive team. And I think that's what they're becoming with Grow, really kind of running the show. They want they want athletes who are also ballers more than they want necessarily, let's find the best value in the guy that Tom Brady is actually gonna trust. You know what I'm saying?
Fair.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because of Mike's board, I feel like the general consensus among your average Patriots fan out there is that if they don't draft one of those 3 positions, it's a bit of a misfire, because those are the 3 greatest areas of need, and you can get really quality players there at that spot, and so lock it up, make it happen. But I do see a lot of mocks that are putting players like I've seen Miles Murphy, out of Clemson, Lucas Van Ness, popular name there, an edge. If they went in that direction with an edge type player or something outside of those three positions, is it worth it? Is the player, when you say best available, are one of those guys so much better that you would take them over something that is a clear position of need over one of the players, say on Mike's board, if they were available?
Edge is interesting for me because one, it is one of the sneakiest areas of need. I have it as I think top 4 because God forbid Judon gets hurt, then it's going to be a heavy rotation with guys that you don't trust to be on the field every single down.
Contract year for Uche too.
Exactly. They need the depth, which is why I always end up mocking Viliami Fehoko, one of those guys towards the end of the draft who are more tweeners, but can make an impact for you. But the thing with a lot of the edge guys at the top is they're mostly physical freaks who need to be coached and learn to actually be every down players. Nolan Smith, I think, is more in the plug and play mode, which is why I'm not sure he's even going to be around. But a Miles Murphy or Lucas Van Ness, those are guys who have incredible raw skills and have one thing that they're both great with power, but they're super one-dimensional, and you need to teach them, diversity in their pass rush, things like that, before you say, okay, you're the next Judon, or you're the guy who I'm going to trust to rush the passer and hold up against the run. So I don't love them choosing edge early on. I think they can find really good value, just maybe not, a guy who comes and plays every down for them later in the mid to late rounds.
Pat Mahomes walking a Super Bowl, walking the Lombardi Trophy out into the draft. Casey's pretty lit right now, but they opened it up with Heidi Gardner and the actor from Modern Family.
Stone Street, Eric Stone Street.
Stone Street, yeah.
Yeah. As far as edge, while I agree with you, I think if a guy like a Murphy or like Nolan Smith is there, Murphy's probably going to be there. Smith, maybe not. Nolan Smith is just such an electric player, lightning quick. He ran a super fast 40. And you bring up a good point about competing in the SEC too. That's NFL light. Again, there's no comparison, but that's the best competition you're going to get at the college level. Yeah. Talking about a position of need, they may draft for the season after if they don't want to pay Uche. Who knows? But what were you going to say, John? Sorry.
This is the biggest thing that's ever happened to Kansas City. They're freaking out here.
Yeah.
I was saying, I've literally never seen Kansas City in my entire life. I didn't know where they were.
Yeah. Somewhere over there. So they're starting Kelsey. Less Kelsey is fine for me, but oh
nah, you're a hater. Travis Kelsey. I love this version of him, man. He's got his rings. Let him talk his smack. I love Travis Kelsey.
He's a wannabe Gronk. He's wannabe Gronk.
Such a
tryhard.
Such a donkey.
You guys, this is what I'm afraid of when I move to Boston. That is the New England take. I get it, man. Travis Kelsey is hilarious. I love him. He's awesome. And he's not Gronk. I think we put that on him. He's that dude.
But he's doing it to himself. He's trying to be Gronk. He's trying to be the goofy.
How is he trying to be Gronk?
Gronk is a doofus.
Watch him.
Kelsey's corny. He's corny.
No, he's got black dude Riz, but he's white. That's why people are I think it's a little. It comes off corny, but I'm telling you,
he's trying. Yeah.
That's why it seems like he's trying. But honestly, I'm telling you, he's authentic. It makes me so uncomfortable when people fake. He's legit. He's got that swag. He's got that swag.
Makes me uncomfortable.
He's got that Justin Timberlake kind of thing.
I think he's faking his ass off. I love Justin Timberlake. I don't like Kelsey. Fine,
but he does that stupid, you got to fight for your right to party. That makes me want to vomit.
Everything
okay,
is
no,
bad.
that's he can be corny. I think it's funny, but yeah, that's fair.
It's all
funny,
bad.
but it's goofy.
Yeah,
it's all bad.
Yeah. And Gronk had the same thing. It's just his was he turned his brain off and just said the first thing that slid out. But we loved him for it.
Yeah. We never talked about this. There were some reports once upon a time, and again, rumors. The Patriots, what if they trade all the way up? For a quarterback, that seems to have been silenced. I don't think that was ever necessarily legitimate. Let's talk about this. We talk about dream scenarios. Give me your nightmare scenario. Nightmare.
I'll go first.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I had this in my back pocket when I saw the news today.
I had mine too, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, it's Matthew Bergeron. Nothing against him as a player, but if he is the pick at 14,
That's the Cole Strange type reach. That's the Cole Strange type reach that.
And even like Cole Strange made sense because he was one of the top 3 guys where I'm like, you can justify it, but you're gonna get crap for it. Bergeron, like, yeah, he may slip into the first round, but it needs to be at the end. Like, I would not be happy.
My nightmare is Skaronski falling to 14. I think that he is fringe guard tackle, just like Isaiah Wynn was. I think that you're not going to be able to, not that you're not going to be able to find a place for him, but you're going to put him all over the line. He's going to get uncomfortable, just like Isaiah Wynn was. He has the T-Rex arms that everybody fears, and if they do it anyway, and you let T-Rex. I mean, again, he's got the tiny arms, right? So, like, if it's the same type thing that happened with Isaiah Wynn, that is just a nightmare all over again. I do not want Peter Skoronski.
You know what they should do instead of drafting Isaiah Wynn replacement? Just go re-sign Isaiah Wynn. He's just sitting out there waiting for somebody to call. Honestly, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. No. It couldn't work out for you. Why don't we do a 1-year prove it? Come in here with low expectations, fight for a job.
Either, yeah.
I would not put it past either unless he's so scarred by what a bad experience it was, being shuffled in and out, being benched, being embarrassed, and it's possible that he is and was, that he wouldn't come back here under any circumstances. But it actually makes a ton of sense to me that those two could get back together. And the longer he sits out there, the more I think it's possible. But I would agree. If you're not getting one of those blue chippers or the guys that you really like, don't take the tweener there at 14. Do the value stuff. Take people later in the draft and move stuff around if you have to.
If Skaronski goes like in the top half of the draft, he's not a tackle. I do not think that anyone is going to draft him early as a tackle. They're going to say you're going to be our all-pro guard. If he slides to like the mid to late 20s, that's when teams are going to be like, okay, like the Patriots philosophy, I need a tackle, and there's worse things than having short arms. Yeah, I agree. Isaiah Wynn, if he comes back, like he hasn't been signed yet. He's clearly one of those guys where teams are going to see where their roster's at. And if they're desperate for one, then, that's going to shape his market. And also, I think even a guy like Wynn, he was very good at playing to his strengths. I really think moving him to the right just completely threw him off his game. Like before that, it was injuries and he's not consistent. But like Wynn wasn't a guy who gave up a lot of sacks. Sure, he's going to give up pressure, but he was very good at playing to that and redirecting and still buying time. It was last year just had some bad matchups.
Tweet from one of my buddies just now.
Travis Kelce is such a donkey.
There's nothing worse everywhere.
There's nothing
unsolicited. Group chain. Such a donkey. Thumbs up. Everybody on the chain.
New England loves to hate Travis Kelce.
He's a
donkey. There's nothing worse than when they take the entire clock at the first overall pick, and the Panthers have still not put in the pick, and there's at 4 minutes. Like, you knew, okay, maybe not right when you traded for the pick from Chicago, but Carolina, there's no reason there should still be 4 minutes on the clock. Put the damn pick in.
We need more Dan Campbell energy where they are literally, like, before they're even on the clock, they're sprinting.
All right, since we're talking about donkey tight ends, and I'm not saying either of these ones are, either of the top – I'm just kidding. Either of the top 2 tight ends do anything for you at 14 or lower if you were to trade back?
Trade back. I like Michael Mayer.
Kincaid or Meyer? You don't like
Kincaid? No, I would. If they pick Kincaid at 14, I'm saying they have a plan for him.
You see different schools of thought in terms of who's higher in people's estimation.
I think Kincaid is the best receiving talent in the draft.
It's 8-17. Why have we not had a pick yet?
No idea. I just want Darnell Washington at tight end. That's who I want.
It's 8-17.
I'm honestly I'm talking myself down from Darnell Washington because I don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, I would be so happy. Like, I'm just not letting myself. I'm already all in on Zay, maybe Darnell, right? No. I can't do it for Washington.
All right. The only thing I root for in the early going is chaos. I want to see something crazy happen. What do you think would be like the most shocking thing that could potentially happen here in the first round, in the first 10 picks or so, that would just blow people's minds?
Will Levis goes before Richardson. Maybe it won't blow everyone's minds, but it should, because that'd be insane.
Hendon Hooker goes as the 5th quarterback off the board in the top 10.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But he's not going to be ready till week 1, so that's very far-fetched.
Here's my sneaky belief. We're talking about whether or not this is my – I wouldn't say it's my crazy thing, but my not even bold prediction. I would not be shocked if 3 receivers were off the board before the Patriots picked at 14. We're sitting here and talking about whether or not I would not surprise me if JSN, Flowers, and someone like Addison were already gone and it came to the Pats at 14. Because again, I think everyone's got the memo at this point. Like, do I take a linebacker or this guy, or do I just take a swing at a position that I've really got to try to reload and try to get some blue chip talent, even if they're not necessarily this good. I think wide receivers now are 10 to 15 picks more valuable than they were even 2 years ago. So a guy in your mind that is a bottom of the first talent goes at 10, 12, 13, 14, 15 nowadays because of the premium at the position. And I think everybody's
and guys want their playmakers, and so as soon as one goes, guys start to trade up, and it's happened the last couple years with as soon as Devontae Smith went to the Eagles, guys traded up for I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it happened last year too. Drake London, Garrett Wilson, they just go. Jahan Dotson went earlier than they thought because guys want
everybody. Don't know whether that run could happen after 14, but it would not stun me. It would not stun me.
But I think
if it begun a little bit before the Patriots,
I just think there's so many rare athletes at tackle and corner. Like, you don't typically find good tackles and corners in the second round. You find a lot of good receivers in the second round. Like, Terry McLaurin is like first guy that comes to mind. Like, there's a lot of guys in the second round who could be focal points of an offense, where I feel like if you're one of those teams that's really early on, like if you want like a Paris Johnson, a Broderick Jones, a Christian Gonzalez, like Devin Witherspoon, like those guys, you just don't find them very often, especially guys who can usually come in and start pretty early on, even if they have deficiencies. That's the only reason I push back against the receiver thing, because like Addison and JSN, I think that they're good players. They're great receivers, but they're not crazy athletes where I think they really move the needle. Yeah. Whereas like Garrett Wilson was undersized, but also one of the best route runners in the class, like very unconventional too, and he was explosive. So it's more that Zay Flowers conversation where, he's smaller, but like, can you even get your hands on him? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Bryce Young did go one. The draft is officially underway. We have just hit the 1 hour mark of our show. So those of you who thought we were late, we were literally exactly on time.
Yes.
To do a 1 hour exactly. My children yelling in the background, me saying, "Keep them out of my hair." All of that stuff was to get us to this moment of exactly 1 hour of pre-draft coverage before the first pick was taken. So there's Bryce. Bryce Young wearing a kind of a salmon suit. I like
He's matching Nick Saban. Saban's also wearing pink tonight. So
I like it. I like it. So let's talk a little bit about Bryce.
I love Bryce Young.
I think he's going to be great.
He is.
Like, great. I don't think it's risky at all. I do not think this is a risky pick.
It's
I don't
size,
understand
but
it.
like,
he's a quarterback when you invest in the line.
The size is, literally, size is the only thing you can knock him on. He's very accurate. He's mobile. Not mobile like an Anthony Richardson, but he's mobile in the pocket. He can get you 5-10 yards if you need it. Super
like a pocket
accurate.
passer plus.
Yeah, exactly. Strong arm. Pocket passer plus kind of like Aaron Rodgers is, where like he's sneaky fast. Super accurate, strong arm, good touch. Like, it's just everything you want a quarterback, and he clearly can make up for his size. So
last year we saw like what he could do if the receiving, if you like I said, I say you invest in the offensive line. Like, for him, those guys are the lifeblood of your offense, because we saw what he could do last year. Alabama's receivers were some of the worst that they've had in a very long time. And he was extending plays like within as much instruction as he could. Like, he's not the kind of guy that scrambles to run or anything. He's scrambling to find guys downfield, which is what you want. So I really think as long as they protect him and make sure he doesn't have to worry about all that, I think he's going to be a really, really good player. Yeah. And he doesn't have the deficiencies in terms of not throwing over the middle that you get from like a Russell Wilson or a Kyler Murray. He throws over the middle all the time, and you can tell he's seeing the layers of it because he's putting passes like at the second level if linebackers are biting up. Like, he's really good at that. I think he's very similar to Joe Burrow in just their play style. They'll put the team on their back, just make sure that, I guess Joe Burrow, you've seen that he can do a lot without protection. Kind of a reverse philosophy there, but Bryce is smaller, so I think his longevity is the most important thing you got to look out for.
Yeah.
Just staying on top of Twitter news and things that come out. This was from like an hour ago, but when you talk about the guys that can be there for the Patriots, and if the run on quarterbacks goes, apparently Pete Carroll told Geno Smith that there's a possibility they take a quarterback tonight. For what that's worth,
I've seen Richardson there at 20 at Seattle. I've seen Richardson there to Seattle on a few mocks as well.
They do have 2 picks, right?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of chatter, but I don't know if it's going up. Right, we'll see.
The Texans are taking C.J. Stroud.
Oh, so they are leaking still.
According to Twitter. Yeah, sorry. Do you not want me to be the leak guy? I love
I love
no.
leaks. I love leaks.
So first, I hate them. But once they're done, what are you gonna pretend you don't know, like, and wait for the network?
Yeah,
It
I
just,
know, right?
yeah, it ruins the experience. You want to sit back, friggin' crack a Budweiser and watch your friggin' draft on television and wait for them to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
can't we just like
It's
what's gained by it? Like, it's just such a bummer. The experience is better when you can all experiencing it at the same time here. It really messes up the because I enjoy the hell out of draft programming. I really do. But
Yeah.
CJ Stroud number 2, that is, again, not
Texans are
surprising.
going to be fun. That's a really fun team now, man.
Yeah, it is. And I'll be curious to see if they end up taking JSN at 12 to match them together. They just played together. That feels like something that teams like to do. Burrow and Chase put them together.
And then Green Bay takes Zay, and then Taylor dies on the air.
Why would you even say that?
Because
and then the Patriots take Skoronski, and we end the show.
And then that's it. I want to re-cue Evan Lazar, who's now a company man working for Patriots.com. I want to re-cue the moment that he saw that Cole Strange was the pick, and he was like, because Evan's trying to be reasonable, and he's like, he doesn't buy into my hysteria and all of that stuff, and then he was like, I don't even know what to say about this. Like, he just absolutely just fell apart on the air.
I watched it I was trying to get a feel for what we were going to do today, and so I rewatched some of your videos from last year, and I saw it, and I was like cracking up. Like, he was just like, he sees it, and he goes, "Oh my god!" And all his shoulders drop, and it's like, it was so funny. They're taking Cole Strange. And it was just
I'll ask the producers when we come back on the air. Let's get that Lazar clip queued up for his reaction to the Cole Strange. It was funny. It was pretty funny on Thornton too, because we're like, gotta be a receiver.
Yeah.
They made a trade. We're like, they traded for a receiver. There's a few we like here. What if it's this guy? What if it's this guy? And it's the same thing. He's like, so they took one, not the guy I would have taken, and But now he's got to put on a smile. Like, I think Evan wants me to delete the tape because he can't have those. Can't have those guys in Foxborough knowing how he truly. He's got to share. A play. He's on a flight with Cole Strange. You can't let him know what he actually thought. But Panthers. Sorry. This says Bryce Young. Should be C.J. Stroud. There we go. Texans select C.J. Stroud, second overall pick. Here. So let's talk about this one. A massive smear campaign on Stroud, right? Like with the S2 cognition stuff, and people were trying to. I felt like people were trying to push this guy further down the boards. Is he good? Is he worth it? Is he gonna make it? Is he the real deal?
He's the safest pick, and I do think he's going to be a really good player. Honestly, he's another one of those like pocket passer light kind of guys, but he has more athleticism. I think you could use him in like short yardage packages. Although I think his career is mostly going to be him in the pocket with the athleticism to complement that. And beyond that, man, he's got a really clean game. Like any quarterback who's coming in the league, he's going to have some things he needs to clean up. But, especially the Texans, I really like that they've invested in the offensive line. They drafted a guard last year. Laramie Tunsil's back. They traded for Shaq Mason. So their weapons aren't great right now, but obviously you got your quarterback. Like we were saying, Mike, maybe they get JSN, so there's that familiarity, and you already know he's coming in and he's got a receiver he trusts with a strong offensive line, build everything around him going forward. But yeah, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm excited because they have a good roster. Caserio's been doing a good job, and now they finally have a guy they really can build around.
Here's the one thing. Texans going QB at 2, and again, what does it mean for the Patriots? The more quarterbacks taken here, if the Texans were truly a wild card, and some people and some mocks had not taken QB here at 2, this I think almost assures 4 QBs go before the Patriots pick, which pushes everybody else further down. That's a massive benefit if you're New England here. You want all 4 quarterbacks gone for sure. Unless, of course, you want to, mess around with either taking one or trading out of it. But that's going to push some quality down your way. There were some situations where people thought 2 quarterbacks might still be. I never believed that. But you have to believe 4 are going to be gone before the Patriots go now, right?
Yeah, especially after they went the first two. I'm put it this way: I'm waiting to see who trades up to 3 to pick
The Colts,
Levis or
because the
Richardson
Colts
now.
are locked on Levis at 4, supposedly.
Yeah, and whether they trade up to 3 to get him or they wait for him to get there, there's going to be 3 gone in the first 4, 100%.
Three out of the first 4 gone, and that means you're
And then does
messing
Seattle
around with
take
one.
Richardson? Does Seattle take Richardson at 5?
And
then 6 through like 10. I don't know. Maybe Tennessee trades in. This is where it gets interesting. It officially started after Young. Now that they took Stroud, which everyone thought then didn't thought, and now it's back. This is where the draft begins, and it's really. I mean, does Arizona go Will Anderson here? Do they go Jalen Carter? Like,
I'm not sure.
I mean, I guess the character stuff, but like, if it's not Jalen Carter for any other reason, that's crazy. He's a freak.
While we're talking about quarterbacks, we didn't mention this news, which was definitely newsworthy. At the top of the show, meant to bring this up, but we kind of got tied up with other things. Another quarterback related story here, one that it either affects the Patriots if you ever thought they were legitimate players for Lamar, which obviously turns out they were not. Whether they should have been, which obviously they should have, but just another quarterback another amazing quarterback staying in the AFC, making the competitive landscape of this, of the AFC that much more challenging. And again, I'll ask you, Mac guys, okay? Just looking at it, and again, we talk about this all the time. Okay, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Jackson, Lawrence, unquestionably who they are. Mm-hmm. Watson, even after a horrible season, you have to believe he didn't forget how to be a terrific quarterback. He was amazing.
Yeah, just how to be a not terrible human being.
He's a terrible human being, and I don't think is debatable. But the quarterback stuff, that he knows how to play the game. Okay, you're already there right now, right? Then you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers, Tua, potentially. Where are you putting Mac into this conversation? This is just in the conference. What's the ceiling here? I mean, I think that top 7's hard to crack. Rodgers is 39. You're expecting him to drop back at some point in time. Tua is one hit away from never playing football again. So, but it's hard to deny what he did when he was on the field last year and how good that offense was. Okay.
Yeah, like I think Tua's and Mac's situations are similar where you don't judge them, I think, alone. You have to judge their supporting cast because they're not those physical freaks where, yes, they can overcome maybe subpar talent because like Trevor Lawrence last year showed he's putting the ball literally wherever he wants. And the only time, like there were times where it's like his receivers are so bad that they are actively holding him back and he's making like crazy plays. So I don't think
the Texans just traded to number 3.
Not the Texans.
Yeah. At number 3, the Cardinals.
Oh my God.
The Texans moved up to 3.
They went 2 and 3?
Yeah, they're going to take Will Anderson. They're going to take Will Anderson, and they're going to get the 2 guys that they wanted at 2.
I love Caserio so much.
That's my guess.
I love him.
Insane.
Dude, I'm a good season away from being a part-time Texans fan. Honestly, also Caserio the past few years has signed and drafted so many players that I've liked for the Patriots. It's almost like he's building out my Madden team. Let's see what he goes with, though.
That's crazy. And I made sure that I didn't spoil it on Twitter. I'm also listening to the live broadcast, and Schefter said it, so that's when
that's fun. Spoil it. It's out there. What are we going to wait for everybody?
Spoiler alert is that Shams is trying to get in on the action, and he tweeted that the Cardinals are selecting Will Anderson, but the Cardinals traded to the Texans, so maybe it's the Texans.
Stay in your lane, Shams. Stay in your lane, buddy.
Yeah, right.
But Jackson gets paid. I think that this was the inevitable thing that was going to happen right after the Hurts deal, and I think a lot of people assume the same thing. They just turn around and they're like, here was Jalen Hurts. How's this for a framework? What's it going to take? Yeah, give me a little bit more guaranteed and we're done. They're done. Didn't get the full guarantee, didn't piss off every single owner to get the Deshaun Watson fully guaranteed deal, but he's going to get $185 million guaranteed. I believe Hurts got $175. Is that right?
Oh my God, this is crazy.
Guaranteed was $180, I think, and I think
okay, so he got
they won up by 5 on each end.
He got a little bit more, and that was it.
This
Fair.
Is wild. Oh my God. Oh, I love you.
Sorry, I'm going rogue on
chaos.
What if
John, how you feel?
What if they take another quarterback?
I'm just kidding.
I
That would be-
believe. Do you
Just
want
like
me
the
to
guy
spoil
who
it?
sucks at fantasy football.
I had
Get
one.
two quarterbacks. Figure it out later.
I had one league where a guy took Steven Gostowski in the 5th round every single year. That was his trademark.
Jeez, that's playing it too close to the Belichick chest.
Yeah.
Kicker in the 5th round, no
The
matter
pick
what.
is in. Why don't you spoil it for us? So the trade was
it's
the
Will
12th.
Anderson.
It's Anderson. The
can
trade
see
was
his
the
body
12th
language.
and 33rd picks and 2024 first and third. So
Wow, they really wanted him.
they wanted that.
Damn, they said we're going to get our.
So
kid
you know what
too.
that does? That takes the whole JSN reunited and it feels so good thing off the table.
Yeah, it does.
Good
So
news for the Patriots.
another again, how do all of these picks bode for the Patriots? So far, check. I mean, you knew a quarterback was going 1, but this
Indy
is
has
actually
a decision to make at quarterback here too. They can take Richardson or Levis. Indy at 4.
Yeah, Indy at 4. We'll hang here. We'll hang a little bit. We could hang till 14. I don't know if you guys got enough steam for it.
I think I need a break to eat dinner.
Let's take a break. Let's take a break after Indy's pick here.
Okay.
That's
Yeah,
what we're
it's Will
gonna
Anderson.
do.
Yeah.
Okay. So Will Anderson is the pick. There.
So those are two franchise-changing guys, man. Like I'm not, like first-round picks are kind of iffy. Give up 3 first-round picks for 2. Will Anderson, you could say, is borderline generational talent. CJ Stroud is just so solid that if you build around him, you're gonna have success. I really don't mind the compensation at all. Get your guys.
No, they got pick 105 back too. So they traded
Oh,
the
nice.
3rd pick and the 105th pick for 12, 33, and a 1st and a 3rd and 24. It's steep, but again,
Those
they
are-
wanted
get your
their guys. They wanted both
Yeah.
their guys, and they did it. So
And
That's
Will Anderson's not going to be playing like 3-4 defensive end in the pros. So
Dude,
that's
a
gonna be
2024 first round pick could be a top 5 friggin' pick. That is insanely
Well, I think
steep.
you're hoping it's not a top 5 pick. Like,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
whole idea.
Oh my
Houston
god.
has 2. Houston
I
has
would
2
ne-
first and 24.
I
so
would
they're trading one of
never
them.
have
nice,
okay.
nice.
Okay.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah.
Let's
So
see
they,
the defensive
it was not expendable, but it was like, okay, we have 2 of them. Let's use one of them to go get Anderson.
Okay.
Their linebackers are terrible. Honestly, they need a lot of help on defense, but they've got some solid pieces to build out. Jerry Hughes, who's still very good, just doesn't get talked about because they aren't good. Sheldon Rankins had a good season for the Jets last year. Denzel Perriman's okay. Let's see. Jimmy Ward from San Francisco. That's a big get. Jalen Petrie, tackling concerns, but he's good. Derek Stingley, Desmond King, and he's towards the end of his career. But
You know what's interesting here? It's almost like they played defense on the Cardinals to make that trade, which I'm surprised they made that much because by taking Stroud, you took so much leverage away from Arizona to make that trade. And then you just turned around and you gave him a haul. So it's kind of interesting because it seems shrewd to do that, to take Stroud at 2 and make it harder for them because Arizona
Right.
would have had more suitors if they took Anderson at 2.
Yep.
So smart move, but then strange to have given up so much. Again, that I'm not sure what they get. Did it say which first rounder?
It doesn't say if it's there. I don't know who was the other ones they have. Cleveland's? Oh, they have Cleveland's probably from the Watson trade. It doesn't say whose it is though.
Okay.
Wow, interesting. Daniel Jeremiah had this happening in his mock draft yesterday. He had Young at 1, Stroud at 2, and then he had the Texans trading up to 3 for Anderson.
dude, this is
I'm,
why you
I'm,
need
lo-
to
I'm
listen
looking
to
at
these
it right
guys.
now.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That's nuts.
I'm
He
looking
heard
at
something.
it.
Obvious.
Yeah.
Like that you don't predict that. That's insane.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that's informed speculation.
Yeah. He's got Levis going next on his, but does not have Richardson anywhere in the top 10. So that'll be interesting again. This is going to be an interesting little mini drama if Richardson is kind of kicking around when the Patriots are close. But anyway, you guys aren't down.
I'd be shocked. Like I do like Richardson, but I don't think he's a 14th pick because he's not going to play. You have way too many needs to take a guy who's probably not going to play for 2 years.
I think this is an insane trade for Houston. Like this guy better be the next coming of I don't know what to justify this much capital.
Well, that's
Holy
what you're hoping.
crap!
But also, like you have two young cornerstones, Will Anderson and Derek Stingley. Like those are the two most important positions, arguably.
What
on
a
the defensive
haul!
side
But
of the ball.
what a
I get
haul
it.
for
I
Arizona!
understand that.
Wow!
Yeah.
Holy wow! Is that a lot of stuff? All right, we're
Yeah,
waiting on the
look at
fourth
team
pick. Whew, we are waiting on the fourth pick, and then we're gonna take a little pause. But holy wow!
Also, with this compensation, like you never actually, like obviously, you know, if a team gets fleeced, they get fleeced. But at the same time, it's also who you pick. You know, like a lot of teams, it seems like they have this huge haul and the picks are terrible and guys you haven't heard of, or you stop hearing about after a couple seasons. Yeah.
The Colts are taking Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson.
Let's go. Nice. That's fun.
That is
QB needy team. I'm all for it. That's nice.
Wow, sneaky.
And as the team that had some interest in Will Levis, the Patriots, Will Levis starts to fall.
Yeah,
the
here
Patriots
we go.
Trade up. Here we go.
Oh, here we go. For the muscular guy who you guys think can't process.
Who eats bananas with the peel on and puts mayo in his
Drinks
coffee.
mayonnaise and coffee. What a freak.
Yeah.
If he gets picked, I'll say it to his face. Like that's insane.
Yeah. That's interesting. So there we go.
Yeah. So
Curious what happens here with this pick here, but that's a couple surprises early in the top four. That's kind of pretty cool. Richardson goes to the Colts here, number 4. Again, we talked about it, physical freak. We'll talk a little bit more about stuff. We did want to tell you guys again what we're going to do. We're going to take a little pause. We're not too long, though. We're going to pop back on here around when we're around pick 10 or 11. So probably only 20, 30 minutes or so, and we'll jump back in and we will take you all the way through the Patriots pick or a trade. We're going to stay nimble, though. If there is a trade and the Patriots trade up, news team assemble. We're going to jump back on here right away, okay? Guys, Tim and Ahmed, can you guys put a link to the next show in the chat if you haven't already? Put the link in there. It's also on our Twitter. We'll tweet it out. You can follow any of us. Mike Kadlick over here, John Zannis, Taylor Kyles, who you should follow these guys anyway for all their terrific work covering the Patriots for CLNS Media. Really outstanding draft coverage leading up to this point where we're here finally talking about the draft. But also follow us, Patriots CLNS Twitter. We will send out a link again. If you guys could throw one in there, that's great. And yeah, that's what we got right now, guys. Interesting start to the draft for sure.
Here, I think Tim and Ahmed are on, so I'll throw the link in the chat right now.
Oh, you got it?
For the next show. Sorry, one sec.
Okay.
Patriots. Sorry, give me one. Where can I get it?
Cool. While Mike's doing that, we do want to leave you, with one thing before we go. Here we are. Mike Kadlick's career numbers.
That's awesome.
He did mention he's a quarterback at Worcester State for a little bit, and
Oh,
yes, it is true that you did throw some interceptions. It looks like there.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The
6 studies,
apparently
13 picks. That's awesome.
So there's Mike Kadlick, quarterback out of Dedham.
Yep, career backup who ended up getting some starts at the end of it, and there we go. Like I said, interception machine. I wasn't lying. I threw the picks.
That would be me, my man. I'm just get rid of it. Get out of here. That's good stuff.
Real quick, apparently the Seahawks may be engaging in some trade talks right now. Rappaport says the phones are ringing.
The phones are ringing. To try to get up to 5? Are they at 5 right now?
I think they're getting calls. So I think they may be.
They're the ones. Are they picking? Are they on the clock here?
They're picking. Yeah, they're on the clock right now. So.
Yeah, well, what do you expect? Last quarterback left, and that's the thing. Once they go, man. And when we said it, all 4 will be gone, and all 4 are gone. So that is interesting to see. We're gonna jump. Should we wait just in case the Patriots are one of these teams right now?
Honestly, I'm getting chills. I feel like it's coming up. I just don't see. I don't see who
Just-
they're going to trade up for.
I don't think so, but let's just wait for 5. Let's just wait for this pick, and then we'll go. We will be back when they go on the clock. We're going to wait through this one. We're going to wait through one more, and then we're going to boogie. I did not even start prepping my dinner, Mike, and I'm a mess for it right now.
Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, just like pure athleticism, is one of the most insane backfields maybe ever. because Jonathan Taylor is literally like, isn't he an Olympic level athlete? Like he was a crazy sprinter or something like that. Like legitimately, if you were just talking about explosive athletes, that is a wild backfield to have to defend, especially once Richardson like really gets clicking, and then you're scared of him as a passer consistently. Whew. That's exciting.
Yeah. Other thing, programming note, want to let you guys know for those out there, there will be a Celtics post-game show tonight. Celtics look to wrap things up with the against the Atlanta Hawks in Atlanta. So make sure you check that out. That should happen after all of our draft coverage. So no reason you can't do more than one thing here as we wait to see what happens here with the Seahawks, whether they make a trade, whether they make this pick.
Are you on Celtics post-game as well, John?
You never know. You never know.
Yeah, fair. You guys go in and out on that. The Garden Report anyhow. So
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, just show up whenever you want.
Yeah, you can stroll in. It's like the Vince McMahon or the Mac Jones walking into the draft room gif.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the heck?
Do something, Seattle.
I know.
Let's see. I do not endorse following Dove Kleeman or however you say his name.
I know. Yeah.
But if you're looking for leaks, like follow him for today and then mute him and don't give him any attention. I don't like him. He's
a leak guy. Often Albert Breer tweets the picks beforehand too. If you like to be spoiled.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
The pick tippers. Yeah.
Maybe
Schefter actually hasn't been tipping picks.
He said I think he and Rappaport said that they were going to try to stay away from that this year.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah, I'll put alerts on for Breer.
Yeah. What's going on with the Celtics right now while we wait? Are they doing anything
up 16-10. Tatum just a nice little drive and dunk here. I think they were embarrassed. I think they were thoroughly embarrassed by what they did last game. So I'm expecting a runaway victory here. But again, don't play with your food.
Finish the thing.
Don't let them hang around. I think the last couple of games, you're just messing around with 8 and 9 point leads, 10 point leads, and then just letting your foot off the gas and keeping it close. Just step on it and go. You know what you can do versus this team. You can get wherever you want to go. You can get to the lane easily. They don't defend. Just play defense, get stops, attack, and you really shouldn't lose, barring an ungodly Trae Young sort of game. But I mean, it shouldn't happen. Anyway, still hanging around. Competitive game. There will be a post game as we wait here for this last one. Any leaks?
Nothing yet. I've seen.
Nothing good.
Diana
Rossini just texted with a source in Houston. Fooled the world. They are thrilled.
Yeah. Again, it's like they have been locked. Like those lips have been sealed in Houston ever since Casario got there, and I'm sure he learned that from being here in New England. But who did they take last year? Who did Houston take last year? They were at the top of the draft, weren't they? I can't remember, but regardless, nobody knew what they were doing until the pick was literally in, and then the trade up as well. So, in a world where there's leaks galore, Casario and D'Amico Ryans did a pretty damn good job of keeping their mouths shut for what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Which isn't hugely surprising from the Casario trade.
Houston took
that's what I mean.
Houston took Stingley last year.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that was a shock too. Nobody knew Stingley was going to go free. Who was the other corner last year?
He was getting buzzed though, wasn't he? Like,
Sauce went next.
Sauce went at 4.
So maybe secrecy wasn't the most important thing there.
Yeah.
Also, a cool note from Mike Jones of The Athletic. This is the first time in NFL history that 3 black quarterbacks went in the top 10, which is not surprising, but I didn't know that for sure, which is pretty wild.
The Seahawks are making the pick.
Seahawks making the pick. You know what's interesting to me that cracks me up also is I talked about receivers are going to go earlier than we think. There were legitimately mocks and people talking about things at the beginning of the year. They're like, quarterback might not go until pick 20 this year. And I'm like, you guys haven't people seen this movie before? Quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 4, 5 for you. That's just what you
guys
do.
Want the pick?
Yeah, I was raising my hand. You got it.
Cornerback, Devin Witherspoon from Illinois.
I'm surprised he was number 1. I'm not going to, especially for Seattle. That's pretty shocking.
Gonzalez is still on the board for the Patriots.
I've seen quite a few people not near. Gonzalez was the consensus top guy, and I've seen quite a few people saying they're not sure he's actually that guy. So it's a little split on him.
Yeah.
Most mocks have him, and some people just aren't down and have 2 and 3 corners ahead of him, surprisingly. So
I feel like part of that is people think that he doesn't tackle very well, which I don't think is true. I didn't see that on tape, but I keep hearing that. And I feel like that's one of those things where when you're talking about a top 3 corner, like it's very easy to say, okay, slide this guy down because Witherspoon plays like a junkyard dog. Joey Porter, obviously his dad was a linebacker, so you expect he's going to be like a physical presence. So I think that may be a big part of it is that people kind of have a misperception about him.
Yep. So that's it. We're through 5. We're gonna hop back on. We're gonna get a quick bite. We will be here. Check out the link is in the chat. Check it out. Jump back onto that stream. Estimated time about 9:30. We'll hop back on here and take you guys through that pick. So we'll see you guys in a little bit. Like I said, maybe around the time pick 11 or so is been made. We'll hop in for the couple of picks because I think 12, 13, 14 will have 12, 13 will have some intrigue there. So look for us around that time. Until then. Thank you guys for hanging out. We really do appreciate it. It was fun hanging out with the guys here. Sign up at FanDuel.com. You can still get some of your bets in if you want to get into the action on the draft here and who are the Patriots going to pick, what position are they going to pick. FanDuel.com/Boston, 200 bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet, $10 deposit is required here. So make sure you check that out. Once again, there it is, FanDuel.com/Boston. We will be back. Patriots have the